David.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Fancy talking to you here.
Indeed, indeed. I'm
Yeah.
coming to you live from Austin, Texas today.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. What's your temperatures there, my friend?
Well, oddly enough, it's going to be about 80 degrees today, but there's a cold
Oh,
front pushing down, and apparently overnight, it's going to become below freezing. So
no,
tomorrow
I'm
morning,
jealous.
they say 28 degrees.
Cincinnati weather is nowhere near that. I think we're 35 at best. Well, listen, hey everyone, I really appreciate you joining us back on here on the reboot. And joining me today is my good friend David Groot. David, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, I'm Dave Brood, and I'm with WinStar Technologies. We are in Culpeper, Virginia.
And again, I'm Jim Gass with Splicing Consulting here in Cincinnati, Ohio. The rest of our reboot crew is incognito. They're kind of huddling around you somewhere, aren't they, David?
One or two of them are, and then a couple of them are on airplanes right now
Yeah,
heading to
yeah. How
Austin.
dare they? How dare
Yeah,
they?
what are
All
they
of them on
thinking?
their way to Austin.
I came a day early so that I could be ready for today's
Right. Who
podcast.
needs to miss our show? I mean, for
I
what
mean, come
reason
on.
would there be to miss our show?
No
Well,
good
today we're
reason.
going to
Yeah.
talk about Dave and I are going to talk about 5 hacks to get more out of Microsoft 365, and so we're in a David and I and everybody else on the reboot. We're in a group together, and we meet weekly outside of our live streams to talk about technology and business and so on and so forth. And so David and I are really strong proponents of Microsoft 365 and generally just getting the most out of it. And Dave, we were talking before we started the show about how why you can understand why people don't get the most they can out of Microsoft 365, and they just think it's this little simple little thing. What was that parallel you gave me the analogy on when you hire techs?
So, I mean, the parallel, like I interview technicians regularly and I ask every one of them, what is Microsoft 365? And the answer that I get from them is both a good thing and a bad thing in some levels, right? They never know all the parts or components correctly or completely. And then that means that Microsoft has a really robust platform, but they have a big problem. Nobody really knows what that platform is.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a problem. And if the technicians don't know,
Oh my gosh.
how do the consumers know? How do the business owners know?
Well, I mean, and between me and you, right?
Hmm.
And of course, everybody that's watching
Right.
or
And
listening
listening.
later,
That's right.
um, the that's a good thing because a tech really should just be fixing the stuff in it.
I
Okay,
understand that.
that's
Yes.
a technical thing, right? Yeah, it's good that they know that. Okay, I know Outlook. I got to fix the Outlook. I got to make sure the email goes to it. I know we can store files in there. That's not bad, but you and I endeavor to help our customers and the world generally get more out of the things that they have, not just email, right?
Yeah. Listen, my goal for my clients every day when it comes to their technology use is to take it away from a liability and make it a tool that is used to grow and more efficiently run their
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And I think that that
And
can be done.
I think that at last count, there was some 30 odd applications, separate applications in the Microsoft 365 arsenal of just about every subscription. Is that what you recount too?
Yeah, so the business premium, which is the lowest business level full blown SKU, right?
Right, right.
It contains about 30 of those apps, and then if you
Yeah.
go up to the enterprise, then they
Oh
even
my
sometimes
gosh.
get into a little bit more stuff.
So we're gonna stay in the business side because I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
easier, right? And I think it's good for you and I to start having a conversation right now about what and I call this the not just conversation.
right,
Microsoft 365 is not just fill in the
correct.
blank. If you were to fill in some of those blanks, what would you say it is not just?
I would say that it is not just your office products that you put
Mm,
on your computer,
good
which
one.
is the biggest misconception. Whenever I ask any business owner, we do discovery calls with our business owners, right? When we're prospecting, trying to
Mhm.
see if we can help them. And I'll ask them, are you using Microsoft 365? And inevitably they'll always say, well, yes, we have it installed on our computers.
Yeah.
And so they just Microsoft didn't, I don't know, they just didn't do a great job of conveying that name change thing. It's the cloud is what we're talking about versus on-premise and traditional software.
Yeah, I mean, you don't just install Microsoft
No,
365.
no.
You
You
know,
deploy Microsoft 365.
let's. Do you say employ or deploy? Employ is the word I
Deploy.
would use. I
Oh,
love
well,
that.
that's true. But it needs to be complete. It needs to be configured. Jim, I don't mean to consume this whole conversation, and I'm going to let you say something, I promise.
No, and I'm
But
go.
what I see all the time is business owners who have delved in, right? They maybe have some IT help or a little bit of this or that, but they don't quite understand it all. So they don't get it completely deployed. So they're therefore the business owner doesn't see the full benefit and value of the way all of these tools interact and work. And I'm not saying this needs to be complicated. It doesn't need to be expensive, but you cannot just buy licenses, install Office on your desktop and think you're done, because it's
No,
not that simple if
you
you want
can.
full advantage of it.
You
Yes,
can,
but
but you're
then
wasting
you're
your money.
not gaining the value. You're paying money for stuff you're not using. And you're
Yeah,
going to then go buy another program to do something that you could already be doing with the programs that you have.
you're so right.
That's the part that bothers me the most.
And so let's stay on the dot just for just
Yeah,
a minute, okay? I would also add that remember, a lot of people don't understand Office software is Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Publisher and Access, right?
right.
And so that stuff you install.
Yes.
That and Teams are about the only things, and some other things are the only things you actually install on a computer with Microsoft 365. I would also add that Microsoft 365 is not just email.
And it's not just desktop application. In
Mm-mm.
other words, you don't have to install any applications
Nope.
on your desktop. You can use a web browser and do most of what you need to
Oh my
do
God.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yes. I mean, the other thing I would say, it's not just a place to store your documents, right?
Correct.
And Dave, I'm going to apologize for your background noise. I know why you've got background noise.
Oh,
Dave's
I'm
in a
sorry.
public place in Austin. We're just happy for him to join us. So, I just, and we can hear you fine over it. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. But the problem is, David, is that that's how Microsoft 365 is positioned by text itself. We can replace your Exchange server or Google with Microsoft email. We can get rid of your file server with Microsoft 365 document storage.
Sure.
No conversation on the additional things that can come from doing that, right? The additional benefits.
Well, okay, so that is absolutely true, and I know what we're going to discuss here in a few minutes is some of the easy to use applications that people may or may not be aware of in the Microsoft stack, and I think that's a great place for us to kind of go, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's kind of go down that road, right? Let's start with my favorite, and I've been pimping it since the very beginning,
Mhm.
Microsoft Teams, right?
Yeah,
And so, David, if you were to say, and by the way, Teams can be an installed program. Most people know that. The goal of Microsoft is to have most of their applications phone, web, and some on the desktop. I honestly believe that they're trying to eliminate the desktop, but that will be a long time before that happens. The desktop application. But Teams, if you were to say one thing about Teams, if everybody could remember one thing about Microsoft Teams, what would you say that functionality would be?
I would say that you could run your business and survive with one application installed on your computer and an entire deployment of Microsoft 365, and that would be Teams.
Yeah,
You wouldn't need to do any other application at all. Now, you might want to just because of convenience or what you're used to, but you don't need to on any
right,
level,
right.
not even close. So
I
Teams is
fully
the
agree.
central hub. It is the cockpit of everything you're doing.
Microsoft for the longest time were advertising Teams as the hub of Office 365.
Hmm.
And it wasn't a bad message because it can be. It's really a cockpit of everything.
Yep.
But the reason Teams got so prevalent was because they wanted to knock Slack out of business. They wanted all the Slack business. And so that's okay, right? And so I think the messaging got really diluted about Microsoft Teams and that what it could do. And so functionality in it, obviously, we can chat in Microsoft Teams, right?
Yeah.
both inter-organization and extra-organization, right? In addition to that, sorry, in addition to that, now there's places where people can come together as groups of individuals. That's actually called a team, right?
Right.
And then subgroups of called channels. And
Yeah.
so, and in each one of those places, David, that's where the functionality of all of the Microsoft 365 can come into play, right?
Well, that's where the collaboration
Yeah.
that we have with a dispersed workforce can take place. Like you're sitting next to somebody, and it like, yeah, it all is just right there.
Well, let's just kind of use our group as an example, right? We're not a
Okay.
company, but we're a group of people. Okay.
Right.
So take us as if we were a company, right? We have a notebook that we share, right?
Mhm.
In Teams, which is a OneNote function, which by the way, they're not making an installed application anymore for OneNote.
Right.
That's
What does that
gone.
say?
Yeah, kind of
Where's
sad
that
but
going?
true. I love OneNote.
Yeah, I know.
We build lists in there with we can build lists with Microsoft Lists, which no one knows about.
Right.
How is it possible? Such a valuable, incredible tool. By the way, on my other podcast, one of my highest performing podcasts was a Microsoft List conversation.
Really?
Believe it or not. Oh yeah, oh yeah. No one knows about it, and
Well,
Microsoft doesn't push it as much
it's
anymore.
I mean, and that's kind of ridiculous because they actually did some pretty cool and major stuff there. They brought together uh, there was several places that tasks and or to-do lists could live in the Microsoft ecosystem because of their absorption of companies, right? As they bring companies on, they bring the software stack in. And now all of those things. So if I have a task in Outlook, it can show up in my list in Teams. If I have a list item from Planner, it can show up in my list item in Teams. So no matter whether my manager's assigning things to me, my clients are assigning things to me, it doesn't matter. It's all coming together in one place where I can use my central planner and I can knock out my work.
Yeah, I tell you what, lists and lists is included in every Microsoft product. It is just they throw so much in, even the lowest levels, right? And
Yeah.
so lists, it's called lists, and it's so the name says it all. You can
Yeah.
build lists, automate lists, drop down list, list querying other lists. Something
If you want a
happens on
list of a
list.
list, you can do that too.
I mean, think about that. How many
Yeah.
lists of things do we make all the time that we need to share with other people? And what do we build it on right now?
Right.
Spreadsheets. We do a
Yeah.
spreadsheet,
Well,
and that's a
again,
horrible thing to do.
what I see over and over and over and over again is people buy software products that are one focus, one purpose reasons, right? And they say, oh, this product does this, so that's what I need to buy. And instead, they don't need to because they could just do it with what's inside of the Microsoft.
It's right there. It's right there for everybody to use. Let's talk about Planner. We kind of touched on Planner last week a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
I'm actually starting to plan all of our shows now using Microsoft Planner. I think it's not a project tool, right?
No,
It's a
it's a
planning tool.
very light version, if you want to call it a project tool,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
really
Like
not.
let's use. So I'm booking our shows out. Now at least a couple months at a time, right? And I have what they call buckets, right,
Mhm.
for tasks. Okay, things that we want to accomplish, and then within each one of those tasks in that bucket, under that plan, I might have a checklist. I might have a ongoing, free flowing conversation with other people and notes they put in and notes I put in,
Right.
attachments and a whole bunch of things but that plan is can be subdivided and delegated, and you can keep track of it on any number of ways, so that you can make sure that people are getting the work done that they need to get done. It is a
Yeah, I
task
mean,
management tool.
those buckets don't have to just be tasks, right? They can be groups, teams, projects, clients, whatever it is you're putting into a single bucket,
Yeah,
which hence the
right.
word bucket.
Whatever your
You know,
buckets are defined as.
correct. Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, again, the beauty of it is when we start to see the power of planner and we start to see lists and we see the calendar and you see all these things working together. And then now we're going to throw in Power Automate. And we're going to do a flow and we're going to say, hey, this needs approval from our manager. So we're going to set it up when something happens here. And for instance, we just had a situation using another very nice little app called Shifts, right?
Oh yeah.
Shifts is a way for you to schedule your team when they come in, when they got to work, where they're doing, what their tasks are for the day. But on top of that, they can use that to request time off. They can use that as a time clock. They can switch shifts with their team members if that's allowed. Whatever the deal is. Well, okay, so we implemented shifts, and then somebody requested time off, and it was we have a policy in our company that it has to be within 2 weeks that you ask for that time off, and it was sooner than the 2 weeks. And we were like, well, we don't want that request to even go through, right? We want to just say, look, you got to go 2 weeks or further up. So we're setting up a workflow that's going to say, if somebody tries to do, like, that's what you do with these things, is you
That's
stitch
right.
them all together to make them work for you over and over and over and over again, to create that automation on the process that's going to help you do more with less and get the most value from your Microsoft 365
And,
situation.
and you know what? A tech guy, just a regular old help desk is not going to help with this. This has to be, the conversations have to be had, right?
Mhm. This
And
is an
so,
organizational change and implementation. It really is. And again, that shouldn't scare people.
mm-mm,
It's just all it is an opportunity to sit down and say, where are our pain points in our business process? How could we make that better? And do we have the things already to do that?
it's
And
not even a tool that you need
yeah,
for that.
no.
Every organization should always be looking at these things. Let's talk about Power Apps and Power Automate also for a minute here. Kind of give people these are, by the way, these are all things you have in your
Mhm.
Microsoft 365. Power Automate. Talk a little bit about that for people.
So, Power Automate is the ability to create, uh, you know, conditions and actions, right?
Yeah,
So when something happens, whatever that condition might be, you can then, have an action. Now, the cool part is it can be a condition for one program like PowerPoint and an action in another program like Excel. It stitches all of these
yeah,
Microsoft programs together and takes it through. So a team member does shifts, they request a day off, that generates an email message to the manager for approval. And, like, that's the process that this business follows, and that's what we needed to do.
yeah,
Some people like to be able to, when they get an email from a client that's important, they want to save that in a special folder or do a special task with that particular thing. You can set up an automation flow. You just push a button and it does it.
that's it.
Um,
That's it.
you know,
It,
yeah.
it, it, it is a it is I think that's been around for long. If this then that on
Yes, that's exactly
steroids.
what it is.
It's that on steroids.
And it's almost that simple. I mean,
Yeah,
it really isn't hard,
mm,
unless you're trying to get super complex in what it is you're looking to do. But the basic stuff, I mean, I'm telling you, I've seen people who've never touched it inside of a half an hour working out flows.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
it
oh
can
yeah,
happen.
oh yeah. I mean, and it ties into third party applications too. So
Sure.
if somebody fills out a web form, it goes over to here and it goes into this mailbox and so on and so forth. It can do so much, and
Let's
people
talk
don't
about
know.
Power BI.
Oh my gosh, let's not start on that yet. Hold on,
All
it's a
right.
little bit further than we want to go yet,
All right. Okay.
right? But we'll talk
The
about it.
next show. I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
want to say one thing, Jim.
Go.
All these features and stuff for the end user and the business owner are very huge, and that's where the value can be identified and seen. But the part that they need to also understand is that by putting this system in play, you're able to do other things like
Oh yeah,
make sure you know who your data is being shared with, by whom, how long. You can classify your data. You can protect it. You can all the you have control from a
mm,
central administration
yeah.
of your intellectual property, which I can tell you, there's many products out there in the world. They don't all give you that control.
No, no. And so, forms.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
forms.
People
Go
love
ahead.
forms. I'm not even sure what the infatuation is with that, but it's a great program. if you need a survey, a quiz, a test, anything, it's cool because you can do it internally, so it's only internal, or you can make it an outside form, and it can be, emailed out to people, and it collects all that information into one spreadsheet so that you're able to then look at charts
Put a
and check it
workflow
all out.
too, and
And that's right. And then pop a workflow on the back end and get your marketing team involved, and all of a sudden, off you
it's
go.
amazing. It's amazing. It requires a Microsoft 365 consultant. You know how you have like SAP consultants, or name a really popular application, an ERP
Or
consultant,
Salesforce. Yeah.
Salesforce consultant. Microsoft 365 is synonymous with that type of solution. I wouldn't even say it's a CRM. I mean, it's not the CRM. It is just a workflow
Yeah,
product.
Microsoft, their CRM, they have one. It's called
Yes,
Dynamics, but it's not
Dynamics.
in the Microsoft 365 stack.
Right,
I guess it
right.
is part of that family because
It
it's
works
cloud.
together. The stacks all
Yeah,
work together. Azure, Microsoft
correct.
365, Dynamics 365. Those stacks all interact together. But one of the things I want to talk about is Viva.
Okay.
Viva is like its own product set now, right? And
Right. It's a platform almost, right?
yeah.
Is what I would
But
say.
pieces of it are included in Microsoft 365, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so it's all about human interaction and the human touch and stuff like that. And frontline workers in a lot of cases. And if you don't know what a frontline worker is, these are conversations that you need to have with a Microsoft 365 consultant like David or me, right? Or one that right? To
Right.
talk to you about how you use this whole list of applications. How can I get, if somebody creates a document and saves it in this folder, that I get an alert that it needs to be approved, and then I click on a button and it needs to be approved, and then it goes to another folder, and then they can use it. Until then, they can't, and it doesn't get classified for whatever compliance that we need to follow. That
Right. I mean, you want a document sent to somebody in an email, but you don't want them to forward it to your competition. So you can stop that ability. It's you're controlling their email on some
yeah,
level, right? Like
yeah.
it's just fun.
I
It's
think
good
it's
stuff.
I think the problem with Microsoft 365 is it's not fair to define it as a suite of products
No.
of things. It's not, because and let's just go down the list. I'll just call them out, right?
Okay.
Obviously, the Office software, Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Publisher, um, Teams. And then we get into the things that don't have installers necessarily: bookings, lists, planner, Delve, Power Apps, Power Automate, forms, to dos. By the way, to dos is
Hmm.
is another one. Shifts, Viva, Power BI, you know,
Yep.
and leave anything out?
SharePoint, but that's just
Yeah, yeah.
the
SharePoint
document
and
libraries
OneDrive,
and stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Those things are automatable too. But if you define it as
And
those products, it's doing it an injustice.
yeah, whiteboard is another really cool one.
Thank you. Whiteboard. Wow. How did I leave that one out? And there's so
Hmm.
many uh, other applications, but the power of Microsoft 365 isn't one of those one things. The
No,
power of Microsoft 365 is what a number of those things can do to automate and simplify your business processes.
that's
You
right.
know, like bookings. You and I talk about bookings all the time. I love bookings. One of my favorite ones. The ability to allow your staff to schedule you or a service of yours. If I'm a dog grooming shop and I have Microsoft Bookings, I can allow people to go through Microsoft Bookings to schedule their appointments on the
Hey,
web.
I came to Austin yesterday and I needed a haircut. And I'm here to tell you, I found a barbershop and I was able to book the appointment using bookings of all
That's impressive.
things. It's very cool.
You
So
needed a haircut? No comment.
I
So
did. Yeah, no, trust me. Yeah, there was a couple of them that were just a little long, so I needed
yeah.
to cut.
But I mean, and that customer name now goes in a list, right?
Yes.
You
Yep.
know, I tell people in organizations, use it internally. If you have an assistant that needs to book you for something, they can use bookings, and they don't even have access to your calendar. They just see your available openings,
Well, I mean,
and that's
keeping in
internally.
mind the bookings, you're basically creating what they refer to as services, right? So
Yeah.
each booking is a half an hour, whatever the service
Whatever
is,
you want to do.
15 minutes, an hour, whatever. And you could use that internally, like you can create a booking link for a service that lets people book from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Meaning internal people have to have a meeting with you. Like I'm trying to get it to a point in my life, Jim, where nobody can bother me. It's between 10 and 11 or 3 and 4. You know what I mean? Like, because we're all busy and we always bother each other, which stops everybody. And, so trying to work all that out, but you can do that internally as well.
If I got a group of people that work with me and I say, go to bookings. Don't try to schedule time with me. Go to bookings and put it on our calendars. And it works great. And then it can tie in a virtual meeting with Microsoft Teams, or it can just make it a phone call and the information. I mean, those things are
your phone system can be on Teams.
Yeah.
Your whole phone system.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Teams is a phone system. Don't even talk about that, right? And coming up, they're going to give away the audio conferencing piece of it for free coming up in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really nice feature.
Yeah, I think it's good. And so, David, I mean, our show's only 20 minutes long normally. We went 25. We could go for hours more, and not even demonstrate these applications, right?
That's right.
But I think it's important to start thinking about and look. If you don't know what these tools do, it's like okay, I've got a fishing pole, I've got hooks, and I've got worms. I don't know what to do with these three things together, right?
Right.
And so somebody has to tell you, okay, well, you put don't forget the string, right? But you put the hook on the string, you put the bait on the hook, and you throw it into that pond. And then when it goes down, you'll pull the fish out, right?
Yeah, but the part you forgot is, how do I get the fish off the hook? See, my wife has to help me with that part.
Yeah, that's only if you're kind of get to release some fish guts. But you're right. I still have to do this for my 15-year-old if we go fishing. But the problem is that if you don't know what a fishing pole is, you got to start there. Okay.
Right.
But it doesn't stop at just knowing how to throw that line in there and pull a fish out with Microsoft 365. That's just the first step. You need to know the tools, and then have somebody like David or I, or your Microsoft 365 consultant, tell you how you can optimize. Well, it's I want to catch a fish. Oh, here are the tools you use to catch that fish. Here are the tools.
Yeah, I mean, spend an hour.
365 tools to accomplish a business goal.
Right. Talk to whoever it is that you're dealing with and spend an hour and just go over it and understand it, because it would be worth your time.
You got it. You got it. David, I really appreciate you joining me from Austin. You got a little blurry on video, but it doesn't matter on podcast. You got a face for radio anyway.
Yeah, I'm probably better for that. Yeah.
So listen, enjoy the show down there. And I wish I was there with you guys. Tell everybody I said hi. Thanks everyone for joining us. As always, if there's any questions, put them in the comments. David and I in group, we'll find them and we'll answer them and help you wherever we can.
That's right.
So thanks a lot, David.
See you later, guys.
Take care, everyone.